Hey everyone, it's Minutia Minute. I just wanted to take a minute, let everybody know that I am officially caught up on Batman. I got through issue 105 last night, just in time for 106 this coming week. I was not originally planning on reviewing Tynion's Batman run, but after having read it, I did want to just take a few minutes to talk about it. When I found out that Tynion took over for Tom King, I figured, okay, well this is going to be a little bit more the status quo of Batman. Probably not going to do anything too crazy. I was kind of thinking it might be kind of like Tony Daniel after Grant Morrison left the book in like the low 700s, where it's just kind of like typical Batman adventures, but nothing particularly earth-shattering, just like focusing on status quo. To be honest, coming off of Tom King's run, I was kind of ready for something a little bit more status quo. With Tom King's run, it seemed like, he was really looking to kind of surprise you. He cared more about the surprises and more about what crazy thing can he put on the page than, what makes the most logical sense for Batman in this moment. And while I enjoyed that ride, I was definitely ready to get back to more of the status quo. What I have to say about Tynion is that it was just a very strong case of under-promise, over-deliver. So I came in expecting status quo, and with basically the 3 arcs that he's done so far, I've found them to be actually incredibly entertaining. Kicking things off, talking about status quo, this book really is that. So there's been a strong sense of escalation as we've moved through basically from the New 52 onward, where Batman has all the money in the world, and so he can kind of do anything. So from the very beginning, Batman's got drones out in the city, and he's got this crazy, new Batplane that's 3D printed or something like that. Just really over the top, tech Batman. Very gadget heavy, very less about the wits and more about the gadgets, right? And he's introduced to this new villain, the Designer. He's enlisted, and this is long before this book takes place, Catwoman, the Joker, the Riddler, and Penguin. And he's basically taught them to beat Batman. This was all something that happened very early in Batman's career, so it's just been this thing lingering in the background. Then all of a sudden, things start happening, and Catwoman realizes that this whole thing she'd agreed to do years and years before is now going to come back and bite them in the butt. And this Designer guy has come back to wreak havoc on Batman. And she warns Batman about it. He has an altercation with the Designer, and it's revealed that the Designer is dead, and the person who's really been pulling all of these strings from the beginning has been the Joker. He basically took everyone's plans and is now using them to take over Gotham City. And Batman now has to contend with the Joker, who has effectively pillaged Gotham, and as with this arc is wrapping up, stolen the Wayne fortune via Catwoman. And basically now Batman has lost everything. Gotham is on fire. Joker is pulling the strings at the police department and causing all these riots, but preventing the city from taking itself back from his control. Interesting idea for a story arc. Big long arc. I mean, we're talking about basically 9 or so issues, 8 or 9 issues. What impressed me with this was that he shows you Batman kind of at his most overpowered at the beginning. And by the end of these 9 issues, he basically tears everything apart. He puts Batman and Catwoman's relationship into question, and really, breaks up the status quo quite a bit, which I thought was pretty interesting, pretty compelling. The one downside is because it's coming straight out of City of Bane, you now have Gotham being pillaged twice in a row, which is not good. For those of you who feel been there, done that with some of these stories that Tynion's been putting out, I definitely totally can relate, and I kind of felt that way. But it was also a breath of fresh air, just because I felt like Tynion understands the characters better than King did. So having come out of that, you go right into Joker War, which is really just part 2 of the same arc. But in this, it's all about Batman, you know, taking back the city from the Joker. And this series I found to be really, really, really interesting. There's a few things that he does in here that really struck a chord for me, that really culminated with issue 98. So in issue 98, basically, you've got this sort of new dynamic of Punchline versus Harley Quinn, which Punchline I actually think is a pretty interesting character. I'm curious to see where they take her, sort of like a social media Joker, in a sense. Jury's out. It's too soon to tell if she's going to be worth all the hype that she seems to be getting. I noticed that issue 89 is now a ridiculously expensive book. Or if she's just going to be like Joker's daughter or the Batman Who Laughs, where it's just like flash of the pan and then move on. People are sick of it. But I think there's a lot of meat on that bone, and I'm curious to see what Tynion's going to do with it. But we really started to get to spend more time with her in issue 98 because she faces off with Harley Quinn. And it was interesting seeing them play off each other and just get a little bit better sense of who Punchline is, and how she isn't just a Harley Quinn clone. The other thing about this issue that I found really exciting was Batman is dealing with Punchline's version of Joker Venom. So it's not something he's faced before, and he's having, and this actually goes on through multiple issues, but it kind of culminates with this issue, where Batman is having visions of Alfred. And so Alfred gets to come back, and it's like this, in this particular story arc, I felt like we finally got the emotional weight of Alfred leaving us. Alfred comes to give Batman a pep talk, but it's just Batman talking to himself, basically. But I found it to actually be really powerful. I really, really liked it. It was rousing in a Mick and Rocky kind of a way, but it was also very touching, just as a capstone to, 80 years worth of Alfred in comic books now going away for a while. And it really started to sink in that, while I have no doubt Alfred would be back, I said that before, he is definitely going to be missed. It's going to be interesting to see what they do to fill that void, which you get some hints at as we continue forward. And I can't remember 100%. I think it's still in the Joker War. Actually, I'm fairly certain it's in the Joker War, where you have Batgirl kind of retaking up the mantle as Oracle, which I also thought was interesting. I always liked Oracle as a character, and I was excited to see her kind of coming back. She still can walk, she's just now taken on kind of a new role. I'm wondering if that's kind of how they're going to solve the kind of Alfred problem, where they can still kind of have that beat without actually having Alfred. Especially because Catwoman is not staying, so they kind of tease that maybe she was gonna, her and Batman were gonna be separated after just a few issues. It sounds like they're going on a year-long hiatus before they're gonna reintroduce her into the Bat family. And I don't know if that's Tynion has kind plans for that, or if it's simply a matter of him wanting to kind of take her off the table. My hope is that he's gonna, spend the next year kind of building the new status quo for Batman the way he sees it and the way he wants to run with it, and then reintegrate Catwoman in an interesting way. What I prefer not to have happen is the last 84 issues of will they, won't they, to just kind of be swept under the rug just to get rid of it. So I actually really wanted to make this video after issue 98 because I read 98 and it really was a high point for me. I haven't enjoyed a Bat book that much in quite a while. Obviously reading in a marathon, they all kind of blur a little bit together, and that one really stood out to me as just a really, really rousing story. So definitely worth a pickup. If you didn't read Joker War, I do actually really recommend it. I thought it was really interesting. And if you think Punchline is just the next Harley Quinn gimmick, again, jury's out, but I went in very cynical to it. And again, under promise, over deliver. Really a pretty interesting character, and someone I'm really excited to see what they do with. After the Joker War wrapped up, we got a 5-issue arc with a new character known as the Ghostmaker. And basically he's someone that Batman knew from his past, and basically was training simultaneously when Batman was training all around the world, and they kind of had this history of one-upmanship. So kind of an interesting character. I don't know if he's someone who's going to come back or if he's someone that's just kind of here and gone. It'll be interesting to see down the road if he does. But overall, it was kind of a fun way to go back into some of the early history of Batman and just kind of take a breather after event. Because again, while this isn't Tynion's fault, like you're going right from City of Bane, which was like 11 issues, to their Dark Designs / Joker War, which is another dozen issues. So it's just a lot happening all at once with Batman for basically a year straight, which definitely would give you fatigue running into the next like mega crisis after mega crisis. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Batman right now. I'm really, really excited to see what Tynion does next. I think that the idea of taking away Batman's wealth, bringing him back down to Earth, really leaves a lot of room open to tell some smaller stories, because City of Bane, Joker War, big stories, big impact, full citywide, Gotham City's on fire. Not everything needs to be The Dark Knight Rises, and we really need to get back to some of those smaller detective stories, and I think Tynion has left the door open to do that. The question is he going to actually do it? Is the pressure going to be too great to sell Bat books and just like, again, keep stakes at like the most maximum level? Or can we get down to more bare bones basic detective work and get more on a Daredevil level than on a Dark Knight Rises kind of level? But it all remains to be seen. Excited to see what Punchline has to bring, and yeah, I'm liking the book. So curious to see if anybody's hop back on Batman. It sounds like pretty much everyone's on a break. I'm coming off break and everyone else is going on break. So these are the ways of the world. But if you have hopped back on or are thinking about hopping back on and get to read through Joker War and some of those other books, let me know down in the comments what you think. I really, really liked it. And I'm excited to see what's next. But thank you guys for watching, and have a great night.